Signore e signori, abbiamo più influenza, sui tuoi figli di te, Molly amiamo creato e iniziato da New Jersey. Last week today lived presentato da Filtastic, Comics and Art.
Let's fucking go.
Hey everybody. Woo. Had to remove my headphones. Is that like super loud for everyone when I play that? Just let me know in the comments, just because I have to pull these out and occasionally I forget. So as soon as I hit the video button, it's, oh, okay. Well, welcome back. Here we go. It helps if I have the actual hole facing my ear. Welcome back to Last Week Today Live. We're here on a Saturday. We weren't here last Saturday because it was Labor Day. You should take a break. I hope that you guys have been well. I'm going to be honest with you, I'm very tired today. I'm supposed to be on Evil's Comics channel later today. Mike from Evil's Comics, shout out. I don't know. I'll say this. If you've ever been watching that particular show and saying, is this the week that film may pass out on camera? Because I got very close last time, I'm not going to lie to you. This might be the next week. This might be the week, rather. But I digress. I've got a lot to do today after the show, a lot of running around to do, and I have a lot of reading I have to finish for tonight, too. But we'll get going there shortly. So why don't we just say everybody's here. Do we have to send out like a SOS? Las Cruces is not the first one in the chat today. I just hope everything's okay there. I know he's in New Mexico. I read something about giant spiders there recently. Just hoping he didn't run into anything like that. Let's see who is here. Neil Collects is here. Neil did a great job on our prior episode. Neil, when you have a second, message me the name of a song that I can use on a future reel. Keep in mind I'm about 2 reels behind myself. Our esteemed guest, Fanboy Prime, is here. Robin, I don't like the swearing thing. That's right, Neil. Stop swearing. Shame on you, sir. And Mike the Evil is here. Again, I'll be on Mike's channel later tonight. Evil's Comics, and we'll be speaking. If I could speak proper English, we'll be talking about. Of course, it's not within my grasp for the first time in about 2 months. We'll be talking more about the Dark Tower. We've moved on from the textbooks to the graphic novel series Marvel put out a while ago, which I have some complaints about, of course. I don't know. I just think if you buy something and it says this is the complete saga, they should have the complete book in there. Even I give them a little bit of credit because it's like, this is the complete saga volume 1. Because I guess if, there's 3 complete volumes, so I guess it would be like this thick in a hardcover if that were the case. So I kind of get the volumes, but there's content that's absent that's proving problematic. Anywho, before I bring my guest on, I want to remind everybody the 2 exclusive covers that I drew for Legacy Comics. It is Condry digital copy number 4 and The Job Dark Matches. That was a bit of a jam piece, if you would say, a collaborative effort. Are available right now on Legacy Comics. That's with an X.com. That's LEGACYCOMIX.com. And just remember, I am pushing it because, first of all, I wrote away my rights to any money for it, I guess you could say. Not my rights, but rather than accept payment for it, with every purchase, a portion of the money goes towards Comics Curing Cancer. A donation will be made to Comics Curing Cancer. Again, that's Legacy Comics with an X.com. I've been putting links on all my recent videos, and I've been making sure I mention it. So I'm probably going to mention it from here until maybe the end of October. So you will be sick of me saying that by then. Look, if nothing else, if you don't want to read a good comic, if you don't want to see what I think is good artwork, if I say so to myself, again, it helps Comics Curing Cancer. So it's a win all around. Also, to remember to vote in the Comic Book Community Awards. I am nominated for 3 awards. Best Community Artist. Yes, I'm double fisting water and coffee. Favorite Community Artist, excuse me, which may be my last year of eligibility, so I'm really pushing hard for that. Oh, somebody gave me a thumbs up. Thank you. Favorite channel under 1,000, and best unboxing under 1,000. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and go to cbcawards.org and cast your vote. I am the underdog as always, but hopefully we'll do it this time. So without further delay, let me bring on our esteemed guest, somebody I'm very excited to have on. And here we are, Mr. Fanboy Prime. How are you, sir?
What's up, Phil?
Hey.
How's it going?
You changed your hat just for me.
Yeah, I took off the beanie. I changed my shirt too. I wanted to get dressed up nice.
There we go. And I did bring the appropriate coffee mug for you too.
Oh, nice.
With my Superman mug, which is, I think it's on its way out because it's very faded at this point.
So you're double fisting. You said water and coffee. I got two Dr. Peppers from Whataburger.
You know what? I know Trev is a big Whataburger fan. We do not have any near me, so I have no reference if how good it is or what it compares to.
Yeah, I don't either because it's just what we've eaten here in Texas. So who knows? It may be terrible. It's just it's in our blood to eat it. So yeah.
So you've only had Whataburger? You haven't had anything else like McDonald's, Burger King, anything like that?
I mean, I've eaten that stuff, but I live in a small town, and so it's all garbage. It's all garbage. If I go to San Antonio, if I go to San Antonio and eat Whataburger there, it's like a gourmet meal. Like it tastes so much better than the small town. But no, Whataburger's good stuff. My friend Nightwing 207, you may see him in my chats every now and then on my live streams. He used to be a manager at Whataburger, so we used to get the discount. So sorry for him, he had to eat food that he ate all the time. But when we would hang out, I'd triple stack the meat on there, double stack, things like that.
Did he ever kind of give you a tip off, hey, look, just don't order the fries on a Tuesday?
No. He was very he was a very detailed manager. He did not he was not the person that have employees messing with the customers. He was very make sure it's clean, make sure it's proper like that. I worked with him at another restaurant. That's how we kind of actually became friends. And I could not stand him when we first met because he came back not in a manager role. He came back as just a regular worker. But he could not get out of that manager mindset. And so he was never where he was supposed to be.
So he was always like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah. So we did not like each other at first, or at least I did not like him. And he was on break one day and I went back in and I had just bought a copy of Knights of the Old Republic, the Xbox game. Mm-hmm. And that's what started our conversation. And he actually got me back into comics. He lent me a bunch of storylines that I had missed. And from there, we became best friends and stuff.
And, I'll say this. So I have a group of close friends I've known since college that, we're like when I say college, we're talking 20 plus years at this point, but I regard them as brothers. And one of them, him and I hated each other for 3 years at least first. And now we're besties. It's hey, what's up? And, you forget about all that stupid crap. Evils is asking, have you tried DQ? I've had their ice cream. I haven't had any of their food. Past that, there's not that many DQs near me, I don't think. It's not that. I think it's a combination of there's not that much near me, but there's also where I happen to live, we have Denville Dairy. Look it up. Phenomenal ice cream. I think it's the best in the state. So they keep losing out to a place right over here on 46. But it's you have these great things. There's no need for a DQ, at least in my book. Joe's saying he had a Whataburger when we went to California. Nothing special. just a cultural phenomenon.
I agree with Trev's comment, though. I wouldn't trust a Whataburger in California.
Is it?
Hold
I don't
on.
know what I would trust in California.
No, she's going over there. Sorry, the
No,
dog.
it's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. So I appreciate you telling me a little bit about your comic book origin story. That's what got you back in. But how did you start?
Comics or like getting into the fandom? Because there's an old picture, maybe my second or third birthday, my mom made me a Superman cake. Now, Superman, the movies were out there in the early 80s or whatever. So it was nothing that I was into beforehand. It was just, hey, here's a little boy. Here's Superman. We'll get him a birthday cake. But that having that picture, like now it all makes sense, right? But there's also a story where she says that I jumped into the shower while she was taking a shower in my Superman pajamas. I guess I was trying to save the day. Now I have no recollection of that memory, so don't laugh at me.
Oh, okay. Too late.
But so I always credit her for, in putting into my head Superman, like Superman here, Superman pajamas, Superman birthday cake. The Super Friends cartoon was coming on, so I liked the idea of superheroes. I had always liked cartoons. I liked Transformers, the good guys and stuff like that. I first comic book I bought would have been like 1991, 1990. It was either an Avengers or Green Lantern. I think I figured out the Avengers book was older, and I was sick from school one day, and my dad let me pick out a comic, and that's where I first read a comic. I did not really get into consistently buying comics until Death of Superman. It was just kind of it's just kind of how everything just worked out perfectly. The stars were aligned. I live in a little town. We have not had a comic shop in 25 to 28 years, but during the 90s boom, we had 3 or 4, and it was. I was more into buying cards, collecting cards, baseball cards, stuff like that. But here comes this big storyline, Death of Superman, and that's what was my jumping on point.
Now, let me ask you, going back a little bit, do you still own that same Avengers comic from when you were sick?
No, I do not. And I regret, I went through this period, and maybe various periods of your collecting or just various periods of your life where like you feel like you've got too much stuff and you need to get rid of it. And there was a school down the street from the apartment I lived in, and like you would recycle paper and it would help them raise money for whatever they did. And so I went through away a bunch of old wrestling magazines, a bunch of Wizards, Toy Fairs, and comics that were really beat up. My good comics I kept, but like ones that had got beat up over time, they became readers. I was willing to sacrifice them for the sake of the children.
Let me tell you what I went up throwing at, and I wish yours at least you're saying, hey, look, they were beat up. I was helping school children. Mine, I think the first purge I ever did was I was like maybe 16, 17, high school, and I was like, I should get rid of some of these things that I don't think are going to be worth anything anyway. Just because what if girls will talk to me if I get rid of these or something? One of those delusions that we have as young teens. So in that, I threw out a bunch of Toy Fairs, Wizard, and then here's the big one. I had I'm going to say the first couple issues of every one of the Nintendo comics that Valiant put out. And I'm 90% sure they wound up in that purge.
Man.
And I had a bunch of issues of Nintendo Power. I've only kept, I'll say this, I kept, it's back there, one of the trade paperbacks for Nintendo comics that just collects just a variety of them. And my name, not my face, but my name appeared in one copy of Nintendo Power that I retained there.
I remember you mentioning that. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
what did you write in for or whatever?
Yeah, so I just in case anybody here is younger than us, back in the day, Nintendo Power used to have a section where if you beat a game, you can take a photograph,
Yes. Okay.
write down your name, get the film developed because you couldn't do Polaroids, mail it, and then in like 4 months or something, they may print your name in the magazine. And that's what happened to me. And I remember, I think I did it like in November, and I think it was like my when I was like in 8th grade, and I was gonna say, like
What's up,
the
Justin?
school year was almost over. Hold on a second, sorry. Somebody was trying to text me and threw me off. The school year was almost over, and one of my friends came up to me in the locker room, like a gym class. Hey, I saw you in Nintendo Power. I was like, for what? And they had to show me. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this. Yeah, I wish I had mine still too. But on the other hand, if I did, Evil's was in there twice. Evil, you have to tell us now, what were you in for, and why are we just learning about this now?
Right. What game did you beat that you sent in a photo of?
I don't know if you remember it because later in the cycle of Nintendo, Tombs and Treasures.
That sounds familiar.
It was kind of like a point and click RPG.
Okay.
With a little bit of like puzzle solving things. I remember I had a lot of fun with it. And it was like one of the first games I think I beat without using like a strategy guide or anything like that. And again, this was all pre-internet, so you had to buy a strategy guide.
Yeah. Oh man. Kids today will never know what that life was like pre-internet. And like I miss it. Like it was so much fun. The things we had to do to figure things out, and like I think about what's irrelevant now. Like I've been buying the DC Comics Who's Who and the Marvel indexes or whatever it is, where they got the character profiles. Like you don't need that anymore because you just go on the internet and read all these up. It's just a cool thing to have. Like I like it for nostalgic purposes. I like looking at the art. I like looking at what the characters were back then. But those are irrelevant books, and like those are things that the companies would never make nowadays because you go to DC Wikia and you find everything out about the character.
By the time they make it, they've already rebooted the character.
Yeah. That's another thing too.
Yeah. I just want to say a quick shout out to 3 Good Nerds. How are you? Doing some catch up this week. I could tell you guys that too. Evil. I wanted to highlight Evil because he may be the second person I've only heard. Only the second person. Excuse me. The coffee's still hitting. That I've ever heard actually completing A Boy and His Blob.
3 now because I've also beat
really.
I've beat that game. Yeah.
Did you have just infinite patience? Because I remember that being supremely frustrating as a kid.
I look back on it now because I popped in my copy on my NES like within the last 2 or 3 years, and I wonder how I got through that game. It was just one of those games that you had to figure out because you didn't know what each jelly bean meant, what it turned the blob into. And I literally had a paper where I wrote down what it was so that I would remember because I was creating my own strategy guide right then and there.
Yeah. Oh, I had notebooks. I had full need notebooks. Everything I played. I should have kept. That would have been just fun to look at. But I remember, I think I stopped that because I felt like every time I wrote down a password, like for Mega Man or something, it just was never right.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I still have never beaten Mega Man 2. Like that game is the bane of my existence. We had the Game Genie at one point, and the point we got to with the Game Genie way back in the day when I picked it up maybe 5, 7, 8, 10 years ago. I can't remember. It all blends in now when you get this old. I got to the exact same point, could not beat it. I think it was that green dragon that the kind of there at the final levels.
I think you just needed one of the specific weapons for it. I was trying to think.
I'm sure
because Mega Man 2 was the first Mega Man I completed. I knew that. I was actually at the NES Championship here too. I didn't get on stage or anything, but yeah, that's a whole nother thing. I still can't beat Mike Tyson and Punch Out. That's okay. I don't think I ever got past Mr. Sandman. No, I did once because Mike Tyson, just brutalized me. I remember that.
That's a great game. I remember. So for our summers, it was myself, my brother, my cousin. We would go stay at his dad's house in Houston. I always tell my mom we lived there. She's like, "You guys weren't there that long."
Mhm.
I swear we were there like a month or two. One of the games we had where we would gather around the Nintendo was Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And my dad, not a video game player, did not like video games, but he's watching us play this game. And I can't remember the character it was, but he kind of comes at you. And my dad's like, "Oh, y'all need to punch him in the stomach." Just from watching how the characters are fighting in the video game. Like, you just need to punch him in the stomach.
Bald Bull?
Bald Bull, I think it was. We couldn't figure out the strategy for this guy. And he's like, "Oh, when he comes at you, look, his hands are up. You got to hit him in the stomach." And when my cousin finally hit that hit in the stomach, and he staggers and falls backwards, it was just so amazing.
You had like Rocky going on in your house, like everybody was. You know what I think it is? I think some of the games I didn't finish because A Boy and His Blob was frustrating, but it wasn't terrible frustrating. Like, look, I had Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I could tell you terrible frustrating. Okay, it was just there. But I think it was just that I bought a lot of games as a kid because, parents were trying to win over affection, that whole type of thing. And so I think it was like, this is pissing me off. Let me play something else.
Do you own current systems? I know you were talking with Neil about video games. Do you have a current system?
The only thing I have right now is Switch.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. There's a little story behind that. So before I met my wife, we're going to go a little bit far back here. Actually, it's over 10 years ago at this point. I was still huge into gaming. And it only picked up more when I started working at my prior company, just because there was a group of us who were like, "Hey, we all have Xbox. Let's all get." What was the first Final Fantasy that was online?
Don't ask me. I'm not a Final Fantasy player.
Well, yeah, but this was like we were just all trying to get the same game to play together after work, and that got old because like somebody would be like, "Yeah, I got bored with it. I turned it into GameStop. I got $4." But that just kind of got me back into gaming. And then I got to a point where I had to stop because I was like, I go to work. At that point, I was still going to the gym. I come home and play for a little bit. Like, I need to cut one of these things out so I have like a social life.
Yeah.
And for me, it was games. And I was dead set on never playing games again until we were married. My wife was like, I wish that we had a video game or something just so we could, play together. It's like, oh, okay. So we bought a Switch. The kind of asterisk to that is that my wife only likes to play games where she could beat the crap out of me. So Smash Brothers, but if we're playing Smash Brothers, she's like, you can't pick up any of the items. So that's half the fun.
Right.
We'll play old school Street Fighter. I've been playing Street Fighter since I'm 13 years old. And she will always get me into a corner and just kick the shit out of me. But like I've tried, I was like, hey, look, let's play like the Marvel Alliance game that was on Switch. I don't like this as much. Hi, Barry.
Barry, hello.
Yeah. And I was like, let's play. There was like another side-scrolling fighting game. And I was like, and it occurred to me, it was like, you only like the games where you could play against me. You don't like the ones where we're a team.
Yeah.
Mario Party, I have to say, we got into. Psychedelic, how are you, Paul?
Hey, Psychedelic.
And I will say this, though. The last thing that we really got into was, I can't think of the name of it. It's a Switch game where there's like 50 board games or something on one thing.
I know. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like a game night game or something like that.
Yeah. And she liked to play whatever their version of Sorry was. They don't call it Sorry, but it's basically Sorry. But we worked together up until a point, like it was like, okay, you or I have to get ahead. So the only way we could do this is if you have a choice, you can't bump me. But we'll work together to try to bump the computer. And that seems to keep the peace a bit. But I digress. So I've had the Switch games, and to be honest with you, like I've bought a couple games that I haven't played yet. I don't think I've actually sat down and got to play since my daughter was born. So we're talking almost 9 months now.
See, that's how it is for me, because like the Nintendo games, you bought so many when you were a kid. I used to buy 3 at a time. I would get my birthday money in 3 games, and like you said, you go to the next one, you go to the next one. Oh, I'm done with this one. I'm done with this one. But now, like I've noticed that for each system, I have one game that I consistently played, and I probably could have done without ever buying another game for it. So like the PlayStation 3, I was Skyrim. My original Xbox was Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, which there's probably way too many years of my life missing because of Morrowind.
Right.
I just really, really love that game, and I got lost in that world. And my problem with games, because I played so much Skyrim, I've never completed the main story, the main quest in the game. I get lost in the side quest.
You know what? I think that you might have done that well, because I played Skyrim one day when it was on the Switch. Like I try not to buy them until they're heavily discounted.
Yes. Oh, dude, I'm a discount buyer.
Oh yeah. And there was a time I was just into Skyrim on the Switch, and I think my son was still really young, just because I could still just sit up and grab it and whatever. And I was all right. I'm really powerful. I was like overpowered. Beat the game, and I was like, well, you still have a bunch of these side quests. It's like, yeah, but they're either too hard or I just don't want to do them. So it's like, I could start again, but why?
I even moved Skyrim onto when I got my PS4, and Ollie got old enough to take the controller from my hand and want to play the game, because he loved to kill the giants and he loved to kill the mammoths. And so there was a save point that I was like, okay, well, let me save it right here. That way he doesn't have to walk far, because he's still little, didn't figure out, gameplay, whatever. But he would just boot the game up. He'd go kill the woolly mammoths, and then he'd hand me the controller. I'd restart it, and he'd play the same part again. He just liked to kill the woolly mammoths. And so one day we're at church, and he's telling his classmates, oh, my dad kills woolly mammoths all the time. But he didn't know how to distinguish from, hey, it's a video game versus real life. But yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, there's one thing I really like about your channel is like sometimes I'll just see you pop on random times in the weekend. It's like, oh, Ollie is playing, Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. I was like, oh, these are goals for when my son is old enough to do that stuff. Yeah, Neil, I have to say, I've booted up, since Neil and I spoke, I've booted up Fortnite twice. And it's just, I don't know, I can't get back into it. I feel like it's changed maybe a little bit too much.
I'm not a first-person shooter kind of guy, but Fortnite was fun. It was fun playing with, I guess the first time I played, it was playing with David and Neil, and it was fun. And the problem was, I let Ollie try. Dad, can I try? And then Ollie just fell in love with Fortnite. And
there you go.
He plays with a group of his friends online, so. Woolly Mammoth, shout out. Do you have any mounted? No. That would have been cool, though.
Yeah. Paul, I have to say, I was an old school Doom fan as well. And I think one of the things I did wind up downloading on the cheap for Switch was, I think they did like the original remastered or something like that. I haven't tried the newer versions at all yet, though. Evil plays Fortnite daily. See, I don't know why.
I remember when he got into it, he started talking about it, and him and Caroline. And so it's fun to hear him talk about it. It's funny how like Fortnite is like the game. It's a very social game. You'll have groups of people who really get into it. So yeah.
You know what it is too? I never like to do chat or anything like that, because I'm usually I'm in a space now too where I think it may be like an ADHD type of thing. I don't know. I've never been diagnosed. It's just one of my friends was. So now I'm the type of person, everything he says is like, I do that all the time too. I can't just sit there and do one thing. Last night I was drawing, and my wife was like, you want to watch 90 Day? I said, yes. She's like, are you going to keep drawing? I said, yes, I have to. Because if I stop drawing and start watching 90 Day, I'm going to fall asleep. And sure enough, I took a little break, and within minutes, and my wife's shaking me. It's like, oh, see, I told you. I need to do 2 things at once. I've only fallen asleep, though, playing a video game once. And that was the Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater.
Where you have to sneak around and stuff? So you got to do everything slow? You're not like action-packed and keeping yourself busy?
Yeah, but to my credit, look, I was still a lot younger. I was still gaming. I used to work at a bank, and sometimes I'd have to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I would just do a whole bunch of crap after work. So I'd be really tired. The first half hour of that game is cutscenes or do this, do that.
Gotcha.
So I remember just saying, and then I woke up like 2 hours later. And I'm like, oh, Solid Snake is just kind of sitting there in the jungle, like, you good, bro?
That nodding off, I know that nodding off all too well. I do that occasionally when I'm driving home, and it's terrible because I work.
Oh, that's dangerous. Yeah.
Oh man, it's bad because you could be wide awake and you just zone out, and then the only time though I've ever fallen asleep at the wheel, we had gone to a water park all day, and all the other 3 people in the car with me dozed off, and luckily when I was going off into the shoulder, no, it was the center lane, the reflective things, I could hear that with the tire, and that kind of snapped me out of it. Yeah.
Next, so go ahead.
Working overnights, man, like that's my issue. I lose a lot of time because I'm constantly in this zombie state where I just want to rest, and I lose out time on like reading because my reading list is way too books I need to catch up on. My playing video games, like I have so many hours on Elden Ring, and a lot of those hours, it's not even me doing gameplay. It's just I put it on and I kind of dozed off, like you said. When you sent me the invitation to be on this stream, I had fallen asleep. I took Thursday night off because Ollie, every first Friday of the month, he gets off of school. And I was like, well, I'm going to take Thursday night off, and me and him can hang out Thursday night. Well, when I got home Thursday morning, I didn't fall asleep. I couldn't. I just one of those days where I tried, but I just could not fall asleep. So that's when I wound up sleeping for 12 hours straight. I from pretty much 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. the next day. And you talking about being tired and needing sleep, dude. Get you one of those 12-hour sleeps in, and it recharges you for a while.
I'm jealous of that. As soon as you said that, I was like, that would be heaven to me.
It's cool on the weekends. I have an extra day. Like this was a 3-day weekend, so I still got a 2-day weekend of actual living. But it's terrible when it's my 2 days off and I waste it with sleep. Like I don't like that. But it was a good time to catch up.
It's funny because I'm talking to my mom, and I'm like, yeah, I'm chasing after the kids, and my wife is doing a lot of work with my son too. We're going, and she said, I was able to do this without being tired. I don't know why you guys are so tired. I was like, well, maybe because you were like almost 20 years younger when you had kids, But like that sleep, like I'm like, you know what? I can't wait. I love my kids. I can't wait until they're a little bit older, just so I can get that little bit of rest in. And I'm sure that it'll be replaced with some other anxiety or worry or something. But
don't say that, Phil. Don't say that, because then you immediately miss when they were that previous age that you didn't want them to be. Like I'm Ollie's 9 now, and I'm just like, I was going to do this when he was 5 or 6, and it's just the time goes by so fast, man.
No, I know it does. And, like I kind of feel bad because my son is almost 3 years old, but he takes some classes during the week. So my wife, I have to give her a lot of credit, especially we just moved my daughter into the same room as my son. And luckily, knock on wood, it's not the big sleep catastrophe that we thought it was going to be. They're both on the same schedule. They're both good. But, it's really like there's no downtime.
Yeah.
Because even I said, hey, look, what? Maybe I'll take a day off and we'll like go to the zoo. It's like, well, hold on. We're going to miss naps. We're going to miss class. So we're trying to find that balance. But I'm looking forward to some of the things here. It's hard to retro game currently. Yeah, I think Evil's talking about retro gaming. I was like, look, I think there's enough, things like if you have a classic Super Nintendo or something, or if you have an emulator, you could find what you want to play in those games that you missed out on.
You may not play the actual cartridge or whatever, but yeah.
Evil had also mentioned, he took me back a little bit, the Sierra games. I used to love those as a kid. I don't know if you played those on the PC.
What is it?
The Sierra games, like they did the point and click, like there was Police Quest, King's Quest.
No.
I used to love, and they redid it for iPad a couple years ago. I don't know if you're familiar. I feel like this was an under the radar type of thing. Gabriel Knight.
Don't know it.
Yeah, look it up. It's a adventure, kind of a mystery. The original one, was it Tim Curry? I was going to say Stephen Curry. Tim Curry did the voice acting in the original one. I remember it was kind of weird. King's Quest and Police Quest mixed up Mother's Goose. I don't know Mother's Goose. I don't know. But let's go back to comics for a second. We took a nice detour. So
No, it was a natural flow, dude. It's good. It's good.
Yeah. So you tell me. So Death of Superman reeled you back in.
Okay, so Death of Superman, I was still buying when I could. It wasn't until Reign of the Superman, the return storyline, and that's like my all-time favorite storyline because of what ties in with it. That took place mainly during the summer. And so that's when we went every week to John's Sports Cards and bought our issues of the Reign of the Superman.
Now, before the big reveal of which was evil and everything, who was your Superman?
Oh, I picked Cyborg Superman.
Oh, he was your guy. So
Cyborg. I was like, it's the logical choice. He took a beating from Doomsday. They had to replace this parts of his body with robotics, and Cyborg Superman was my guy. I was certain it was Cyborg Superman. My cousin really liked Superboy because he had similar haircut, but he said, I believe he picked. No, he said Superboy was going to be the real Superman at the end of it. It was my brother who picked the Last Son of Krypton, and I guess he liked the glasses. None of us picked Steel. My brother loved Steel because he loved the big dudes with hammers. Like that was like his perfect character. But we knew it wasn't him. Yeah, but Cyborg Superman was my guy, and the betrayal I felt on Superman 82 when reading that issue. Already, the cover, he's blasting the Last Son of Krypton, through his guts or whatever. But yeah, the level. I thought it was
going to be the Krypton the Eradicator as well, just because it seemed like, oh, this is the easiest kind of thing. And I was a huge Steel fan, but they kind of let you on early on, like, hey, it's not going to be him, but he's cool anyway.
Right. He says, I'm not Superman. I've just been inspired by him. Right.
Yeah. And I still kind of feel like, I know they've tried to run with individual series with him for a while. I feel like he's one of those characters, like to equate it to something Marvel related, like Bishop, where it's like every now and then they'll have a cool idea, but in the long run, they kind of don't know what to do with them.
Some characters are side characters. They're not supposed to be the star. They can star in a storyline, but some characters are meant to be a supporting character, and there's nothing wrong with supporting characters. Every main story character, every major character needs a supporting cast.
He's got, I argue that he has potential.
Oh, he does, because he's Iron Man. He's Iron Man of the DC universe. They just don't know how to write it.
Yeah.
Maybe he doesn't know all the robotics, but I mean, as far as him in costume, he's DC's Iron Man. You haven't had the right person to take over that reign, and figure out where to lead that character.
Are you jumping into what was the new reboots? The Absolute?
I am not reading anything modern right now. I'm not. It's not that I'm like, oh, I hate modern books. I'm only in the old stuff. It's just I'm really, really into 80s DC right now.
Yeah.
Really, and maybe it's because I can find a lot of it for $1 each. I don't know. Like I'm collecting Secret Origins, that came out right after the Crisis reboot, where they give the origin of a bunch of their characters. I'm reading All-Star Squadron, which is a little hokey, but it's got a lot of characters I like. Roy Thomas writing that. Mm-hmm. I'm collecting Captain Atom because I've always loved the character, but I've never, I love the look of him, this shiny guy that's like on par with Superman, but I've never really read about him. I just always read him as a supporting character, but his series is really good. I'm like 3 or 4 issues in, and I'm like, whoa, wow. I didn't know he was kind of like Captain America. I didn't know he missed a few decades. And so I'm discovering all this stuff that happened almost 40 years, 35 to 40 years ago now. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I would love to get back into modern books because, I feel like I miss out on some of the stuff. My YouTube friends, they'll talk about what's going on and I'm out of the loop. But
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm slowly thinning out a
Chop
lot
it
of
up.
my modern Marvel and DC stuff, and it's just because it's like expense or the quality's just not
That's
there.
that's
Or
a legit thing.
yeah,
Expense is crazy. It's crazy how much it costs for one book, and then if you stack it up on three, and then if you're doing three a week, it's
yeah.
it's it's gotten out of hand.
I had to stop Batman just because it was like, well, there's Batman, there's Detective, there's this and there's this, and you don't have to go down every offshoot. But then you started to get, I started to realize, and this is with most characters, of course, but Batman more than anybody, there seems to be a rhythm where a new writer comes on, and they're gonna, you know,
Reset
put it.
everything that happened beforehand.
Well,
As
yeah, but
sorry, I'm
more.
interrupting you.
No worries. No, more than that, they're gonna go into the Batman toy chest. You're gonna see maybe Joker. They kind of space him out a little bit now. Two Face, Poison Ivy. You're gonna see these familiar villains. Maybe they might try to interject one or two new villains in, and if they're lucky, they become a big enough hit where you'll see them in the future. But that's usually not the case. Like I
Well,
think
it's
that
like because it's fans writing it now, and they're like, "Oh, I finally get to tell my Joker story.
yeah,
Here's my Poison Ivy story that I've been cultivating for so many years." As much as the '90s get crapped on, I love '90s comics because DC was not afraid to do stuff. They cut off Aquaman's hand and gave him a hook. They made Hal Jordan a villain. They killed Superman, brought back these other Superman. They took Bruce Wayne away and gave us Jean Paul. Like
mhm,
they did things, and yes, eventually it reverts back, but there was a longer time period where they let these consequences or they let these things happen. And I don't think that necessarily happens in more of your modern books, which is why I don't necessarily buy as much modern anymore. And this is why anytime I've gotten out of comics, and because I'm mainly a big two guy and more so just mainly a DC guy. But
mhm.
anytime I've gotten out of comics, it's because I felt like the stories didn't matter. It felt like I was just reading disposable entertainment, which
Right.
that's ultimately what it is. But I felt like, okay, this story happened, and then 6 issues down the line, 7 issues down, it didn't matter. But I want my stories to matter. Why did I buy this book
Mhm.
20 issues ago if it doesn't affect this? If it still does, okay, now I'll be on board. That's why I liked Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run. I mean, it was almost 80 issues, 80 plus issues,
Yeah.
and it was callbacks to things he did throughout it. But nowadays it's okay, we'll put this writing team on, we'll get the trade out of him. This writing team on, we'll get the trade out of him, and it's
See,
harder for me to enjoy the
I
modern
th- I think part of the problem is though us as fans, because I think that there's too many people who, and I've said this before, come in and are like, I want something different,
but then
but
we
not too
don't really
different.
want something different.
Right. And I
Yep.
think that when they're shown something different, people start complaining. They start complaining about things they haven't read before. Like, look, I loved, uh, to an extent, the Krakoan era X-Men that just ended. Almost immediately, there were people who were complaining, oh, this isn't what I'm used to, blah, blah. And I asked, okay, how many X-Men books, when's the last X-Men book you bought? Oh, 90 something or the early 2000s. I was like, so you don't know. I mean, it's like it was to me an injection of something fresh into something that needed to be refreshed, and I thought it was respectful of everything that had gone by. And then after Hickman left, it kind of felt like, all right, let's try to do what he was going to do, but in
It
a
didn't. The
better way.
direction kind of just
Yeah,
it lost its focus. Like I've heard that Hickman, there was a plan, and in the middle of leaving it kind of derailed everything.
yeah. And now I haven't read too many of the newer ones yet, but I feel like they're like, hey, we're going to go back to what we were doing in the 90s. And I was like, why do you want to do that? And then every time I see an article where Tom Brevoort, the editor, is talking, it's like, I might have to sit this one out. He's like, yeah, no, we're any time travel, related character, Cable, Bishop, yeah, we're going to sideline them for a while. We're going to totally make you forget about what just happened. It's like, come on, dude. Just come on. But Yeah. Now, to get back to what I was saying too, I've had actually a couple people from the community reach out to me like, "What do you think of the Absolute DC?" And I was like, I've sat through so many reboots from both companies. I'm kind of like, all right, let's see how long this lasts.
My thoughts are, if you're going to do a line-wide reboot, which they've never truly done, because even Crisis on Infinite Earths, like the Batman title doesn't have a
Right.
kind of was just continuing on. And then when they did New 52, the Batman title, because of Grant Morrison, kind of continued on. Green Lantern kind of continued on.
Yeah.
Do a complete reboot. Just start from scratch. But don't lose your older readers. Keep that older universe. They talk about a multiverse all the time. They overuse it and abuse it. Still release books for those people who don't want to step away from that universe. The Ultimate line was perfect, I thought.
Yeah.
Because here you could take the best of this, and then here's for new readers, or here's a universe that now we get to play with now, and we can introduce these characters, and now we got two concurrent universes, and people can be fans of either one. But like everything goes, they had to make a merge and meet up, and then whatever. But I thought when New 52 happened, even if you just kept 4 of the older DC books from the Crisis on Infinite Earths timeline, you gave something for the people who fell in love with those characters and loved that universe. You could have still did all this New 52 stuff and introduced these characters or whatnot. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a low man on the totem pole. I'm just a fan, right? A fanatic.
See, I think that New 52, I'll be honest with you, I went in hard on New 52.
I wanted to, but when I showed up to the store, all the books were sold out, which I thought was a great thing for DC. I was like, okay, this is great. And it was just, that's the one time I got out where it wasn't because the stories weren't grabbing me. It's just I couldn't find those books, and I wasn't there for the jumping on point. And I was like, you know what, this is a convenient time just to step away. I had just got married too.
Oh, yeah, that's a big part of it too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the only reason I jumped into it, my LCS was having a special that if you committed to, I think the first 3 issues of every title, you got like some sort of a package discount, and books were cheaper at that point too. I remember I still have, in the early days of my channel, I would show they had a big poster, DC with Green Lantern making a line in the ground, drawing the line at $2.99. It was like, wow, that aged really poorly.
I missed that.
But I mean, to be fair, I think part of the issue with the New 52, if you want to talk about quality, it was more like the New 13.
Yep.
But I'll say this: there are a lot of gems in it. Batman was great during that time. I liked the Superman title during that time. Not so much the Action Comics, because it took a while to figure out, oh, this happened already.
I'm not a Grant Morrison fan.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not. I just he does nothing for me. I try to enjoy his stuff, but it's just
for me. It's either a home run or all right, we'll sit this one out. But I'll say what is, I think, the unsung greatest 2 series of that time period, and I think that TM is the only one who's been singing this praise. Swamp Thing and Animal Man were immaculate, and they worked so well together. I also was a fan of it. It wasn't good, but I liked the concept, and I don't know if he was an older character that now they just haven't brought back since. Do you remember Resurrection Man?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I liked that series, and it just meandered, and then it was like, all right, we're kind of done with this.
Yeah, I always hear people talk about the Batman run, but I really think what they really mean is they just like the Court of Owls storyline. I don't know I don't know if they fully liked the run, but yeah. I don't know. I really wanted to get in, and I've read some of the issues, the Aquaman run, because I'm a Jeff Johns mark, and so I'll worship at the altar of Jeff Johns until I guess he dies. I don't know. And then I read some of the Flash stuff. So I've read here and there the New 52 run, but it is a period of DC Comics that I really, really have not touched. No one likes the runs.
We're going back to Whataburger.
What's funny though is when Rebirth came around, I was on board for that fully, and I really did love DC Rebirth. I thought that was it was reintroducing me to my universe, that I had fallen in love with. And so
I'm trying to see again, like there's so many kind of, I had
jumping on
almost forgotten
to try to
about, yeah, but I almost forgot about Rebirth until you said it, to be honest with you. Because it just either started and they were like, yeah, let's just go back to whatever, or it just kind of sputtered.
And it's they give you so much, and it's almost like it didn't matter. It's which restarting point over is this, or what is, and it's me and you are just we're the old guy trying to get the kids off our lawn at this point.
Yeah, yeah.
We're longing for the old days. We're longing for the old days, and
I'll say this though, right now with DC, I'm not picking up anything physically. I'm reading it online. Occasionally, I picked up a couple issues of Catwoman, but I mean, I'll be honest, that's been for the covers. Just Teeny Howard, I'm not a fan of. I am going to be adding though the Chris Samney Batman title. Just I love Samney, and I'm really looking forward to his take. But I have been reading digitally, and DC is not my first choice. I won't lie. But what I do read, I don't know if it's just because I'm distilled and can sit down and say, I'm going to just take a look at this. Not bad. I finally read the Supergirl series. Great. Okay, can you keep up this quality? I don't know how much it's going to change, or if they're going to keep that quality once Gunn's cinematic kind of plan take place. But I know that he's looking at that kind of material, for his stuff. But have you done any digitally at all?
I used to have the DC Universe Infinite app or whatever it is, and buying all this 80s stuff, I really should have only did it digitally, but God intended us to read single copies. God intended us to read the floppies. That's my preferred way of doing it. But digital is so convenient. You can read digital while you're in the shower. It's just so convenient. You don't have to worry about damaging your book. It's so convenient. The only issue I found out with digital that I had is a lot of times I would read, and this may be because I work overnight and I'm not like a full right mindset, but I'll read something and I won't retain it. Versus if I do it with the physical copy, I tend to retain it more. And that's just me. I don't know. What I do like about digital that I think is puts it above physical copy is when they do like I don't know what they call it, but the dynamic, whatever, like you scroll and it'll go to the word bubble, go down. When you wind up on the surprise, because if you do a physical copy, you turn the page and you may not, you see this before you're supposed to see it in the story. Like I do enjoy that. Like I read the DC Rebirth one shot when the first time, their one shot to signal that change or whatever. And it's when Wally West comes back, and like I read it digitally like that. So I didn't get the surprise. I didn't get anything spoiled. And I was like, man, so reading digitally when you're doing it like that it's that's its benefit. That's awesome that you don't accidentally see something you're not supposed to. You don't actually turn 2 pages when you're meant to turn 1.
See,
I think that's cool.
I have to try that because I mean to say I've never done it on the focused view for either app, and I found like the biggest complaint I had with digital was like if you go back to when I did the live read of Hellfire Gala, and David actually had to point it out and show me what it looked like at that point because I didn't have the physical copy. The pacing on it was just so strange that it was hard to tell exactly what happened. It was like a high action scene.
Gotcha.
The other part of it, and this is kind of, I think, an isolated thing. It's just for certain artists. Peach Momoko, namingly, I prefer the physical copy because I feel like you see more of the brushstroke and whatnot. Look, she's got a very distinct style. I feel like a lot of what we see now today, like and I'm not speaking poorly, of course, like throw up like a Jim Lee. It's very, okay, heavy inks, digital color, we're done. That would work well on a digital, platform. Something where I think like a David Mack, a Peach Momoko, Sanzweki, can never say his name, Sinkovich, excuse me, it is better physical. Oh, hold on.
No, Mike, I'm not dissing the New 52. It was just a point for me to get out.
been listening, you all need to read more before the Critic New 52 that I've read. That was amazing. Batwoman. No, I read Batwoman and I read Batman. And I did read a couple of iVampire. Future's End didn't do it for me. I'm going to be honest with you, Evil. Justice League Dark, I've never read, and I'll tell you why. I've said this before. It was just my own thing. I was picking up a lot of titles at the time because they were cheaper, and I was single. So I had more money to kind of throw around. Like, at the time, I was also on the Marvel side reading every X-Men book, and I think at that point, every Avengers book. And Bendis was just popping them out like, hey, here's Avengers, add an adjective here. You know, that type of thing. That I drew the line at Justice League Dark because it's like, it sounds too much like a beer to me. Just my own mental thing. And it's something I do want to sit down and read digitally one day. I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
And see, that's like what Mike's pointed out, all these titles. That's something that I would explore digitally. You know, I wouldn't invest the time to hunt for. So that's, I'm holding it off right now. What I try to do for myself is only one streaming service at a time. You know, I talk to people who have like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, this, you know, they have everything at once. And like, dude, you can't devote that much time. So I try to go, hey, I'm going to have Netflix for these couple of months. I'm going to have Prime for these couple of months. You know, then I watch whatever I want to watch. I'm not spending for something I'm not using. And so in the rotation, I want to get back to the DC digital app, and I can read those series digitally. I'm playing catch up, and you know, so.
But you know what? To on the other side of it, like I am one of those people that we have all the streaming services because we bundle everything we can. Right. To be honest,
if you're doing it like that, you're getting your money's worth. Yeah,
in theory, but we're not getting our money's worth because when my son is awake, if the TV's on, he's taking it over for Blippi. And then when he goes to bed, my wife has just been on a spree of watching different dating shows, and some of these things are abysmal.
Oh, is this what you were talking about? Hate watching?
Yeah. No, she is watching one now where I will sit and I'll laugh at it with her only because I don't know the title. It's basically they throw these, let's say 20 just horned up like 20-year-olds into like a house and a lot of booze and everything, and like the first day or two they're like making out like, oh, I'm gonna sleep with this one and this one and this one, and then all of a sudden they turn around and it's like, oh, by the way, there's a rule here, you're not allowed any physical contact, and if you guys could pull it off, the whole group wins like $200,000. But for every infraction, you know, if somebody goes and makes out with somebody, yeah, like it's like a little Alexa like device that's like, oh, and you've lost $10,000, and they'll do like little temptation things to try to get the money back. But the reason I love it so much and love listening to it, excuse me, I don't know if you remember Aisha Tyler from Talk Soup. She took after Joel McHale was on.
Oh yeah.
She does the narration for it, and she's so snarky, it's hilarious. Like I think she'll be something like they'll have some sort of challenge where they're like playing handball or something, and the girl couldn't catch a ball. She's like, oh, I couldn't catch anything, and then you throw Aisha Tyler, and he's like, except chlamydia. It's like, all right, I could watch this, but
I don't have to watch stuff like that. Lady Prime likes wrestling, so I'm.
Yes, and that's a great, I think, shared thing that you guys have. You know, it's funny. Wrestling, I feel like it's been one of those things I forget about every few years, and it's like, oh yeah, that's still a thing.
Well, it's a similar thing to comics. If the stories don't matter and if what happened, the matches don't matter, I'll kind of fall out of it because it's the same thing where the storytelling, where like they could be going one direction and we got to stop it. We're doing whatever. And I'll get out of it. If everything matters, then I invest in it.
Evil brought something up with Red Lantern and everything. I want to say something too. One thing I don't talk about enough. I read, and I still own. Actually, I think it's something I'm probably going to part with at some point. The entire Green Lantern, and I think I think Jeff Johns started with New 52, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he started New 52, and then Vendetti finished it.
Yeah, I think I stopped collecting right after that whole run was done. It was partly because it was like all right, I'm really satisfied with where they're going. And part of it was I felt like, to me, here's going to be a bit of a contrarian, kind of point. Um, Blackest Night was good, but not great. I felt like it could have been so much more.
I agree.
And then after that, the whole thing with the Manhunters was like, okay, or the original Guardians, whatever they were. And then I think the run ended right after that. And then, sorry, to that point too, they just, I guess DC was like, okay, let's make worse. You had Green Lantern, you had Green Lantern Corps, then they started throwing into the Red Lantern series, which was good.
Yeah, that was New 52, and then they had the New Guardians, New 52.
Yeah, then they were throwing in New Guardians, then they were throwing in Larfleeze, had his own title for, like, it got too much to me, and I was like, all right, I'm going to cut it down to the core two.
It was like 90s Marvel, where you had two universes. You had the Marvel universe, and then you had the X-Men universe.
But
I always thought it was weird when there was an X-Men crossover. None of the Marvel characters. It was very rare for them to come over.
Yeah,
and be part of this event. Yeah.
Yeah, but even, and that's why I thought that Onslaught was, like, the end of Onslaught was just so, okay, we're taking everybody but X-Men and Spider-Man and throwing them into another universe. It's like, really, you kind of given up. Yeah, no, it's just, it got too much for me. I was like, all right, I think
because you want to read everything. You want to read everything because you're invested in it, but they know that. And so they're like, well, we can squeeze a few more bucks out of them. And what they don't do, what they wind up doing instead of getting more out of it is you just full on quit it. You reach a point where you're just happy with it. Yeah, I know that feeling.
I think I'm getting better at it at this stage. I feel like Marvel is doing it more than DC at this point, or maybe I'm just more aware of it. When they'll do these 5-issue, like, limited throwback series, like, hey, this took place between issues XYZ of that Wolverine run that you liked in the 90s, where it's very rarely done well. And it's just at the end of it, you're like, I felt like I read nothing. Bishop War College was one. It wasn't like out of sequence or anything, but it was like, this was pointless.
That's a bad feeling because how much they cost nowadays. This is
exactly
why the streaming, and they're not streaming, but you're doing the digital, but you play for the Marvel, whatever it is, Unlimited, and then the DC. This is your opportunity to weed out, and you're just paying a single.
Precisely.
Right. So that's why I think that maybe I will never. I mean, I will always buy a new book or two here or there, but I'm thinking more of anything that comes out from this point forward will probably more be digitally read, and I'll just be in love with my older stuff.
Yeah, and I'll say this to Evil. Tom King's run, I think, was supremely underrated, and I think it's one of those things that's going to come back and people are going to appreciate 10 years down the line, kind of like Dan Slott's Spider-Man run. But yeah, I mean, like, I got off of Batman right after Tynion was done because it was like, he did some great things. Okay, now let's do something else.
I like Tynion's Detective Comics run. I still need to finish it, but I really liked the start of it.
I have to think if I read it during that point. The last thing I remember reading of his that I really liked, I liked that he made over Scarecrow, even in the end it was kind of really nothing big. I wasn't a fan of Punchline. I don't know if she's still around.
You have to ask Mike. Mike, I believe.
Mike, let us know. And we've been talking DC and Marvel, but I'll say this: Image is doing some good stuff right now. Like, there are good independent titles out there, and the way I'm seeing it now is, okay, I'm streamlining my Marvel and DC, but I'm making a little bit more room for some of those indie titles.
So those are the ones I don't mind buying in a trade. The indie titles, I don't know. I'm past my phase, and I've gone through it where, like, you try to buy for spec and buy for, one day I'll sell this. Like, my maturity level is to the point, at least for me. I'm not saying that anybody who does that is bad. I'm just saying for me, like, I matured past that point because I'm never really going to sell anything. Like, it's so hard for me to get rid of the things that I have. I've had these on a shelf in my living room because I've been saying I'm going to sell them on eBay because I need to make room in my toy collecting room, and they've sat there for 3 weeks. I haven't gone through to make the listing or anything like that because I just have such a hard time letting go of my stuff.
I'm just at the point where I've had like boxes, like my back issues. I want to just start streamlining just for space.
I'll get to that point at some point. It's just so hard to get. Like I'm inching closer, but it's a reluctant inching towards it, you know. But I know, like I said, because I did it in the past. I got rid of all those books at one point, but it's like you have to reach that point, and then I don't know if it's like that for you, but for me, I overcompensate for it, and then I regret so much that I got rid of.
Well, I'm at the point now where it's like, okay, so I have like 40 long boxes in my basement, and it's like, I know I have to cut out. So what am I going to get rid of? It was like Green Lantern I'm going to get rid of, I think, when they get closer to a movie thing. And it's just, for me, it's like, I've enjoyed these. I'm not going to reread them. And if I can, I could do it digitally. I don't know that I want to do that. Like my X-Men, I'm definitely holding on to. Wolverine, I'm definitely holding on to. Batman, I might get rid of. I don't know, because I've got like at least 2 or 3 long boxes, just Batman. I'm not talking detective, just singly Batman. And that's where you're kind of picking and choosing. Like, okay, so realistically, if I were to sell these, would they be worth buying? Would they be worth, the money for getting them? And that's where you're kind of like a little bit iffy. Yeah, I've said to the Brattons before, they had a couple of, because they live near me, I've been to them, the comic book garage sales, and I've asked, how do you guys part with this stuff? Because like I have random issues of like A Man from Atlantis. And in the back of my head, I'm like, I know that if I sell this, tomorrow they're going to say, oh, Jason Momoa is signing on for a Man from Atlantis movie. It's going to be 4 trilogies, and now this book is worth $1 million. Yeah. And he's like, look, you have to just kind of reside to the fact that you're getting rid of this, and that's it.
Yeah. I'm an investor, and like, I have to tell myself, you sold it at this point. You sold it. You got what you wanted from it, or you bought it at this point. Yeah, I could look at it. Oh, if I would have waited 2 weeks, I could have got it for a lower amount. Or if I would have sold it, like I have to train myself that it's not what it was about. You told yourself to buy it at this point and sell it at this point. Take your earnings, take your gain, and walk away from it. And I have to tell myself not to look at it. But like you said, then you hear, oh, this movie's coming out. This book was so rare, and now it's worth so much. It's like, oh, the regret. Hey, what's up, Rich? How you doing?
Oh,
and Boris here as well.
Oh, well, Boris showed up here. Yeah. Oh, I guess I thought I said I had a Boris before.
He says I'm wordy.
Yeah, but what are you going to do? I'll say this, though. We didn't really even scratch the surface. We are over an hour in. I'll say this. I have to apologize to you because we were talking about me popping on your show, and I've just gotten so tied up with 40 long boxes, I haven't been able to do so. But I'm going to say this because I'm still waiting for a couple weeks ago when I had Pat from Legacy on. Neil had won my giveaway. As soon as those books are printed, because I didn't realize that some of the ones I picked are pre-orders, I'm going to ship that over to Neil along with that thing we talked about, which is a nice little surprise, and then we'll arrange it. I think that's a good plan. If that works with you, and if that works for Neil and everybody too.
We'll have to see because Neil, he's got a work schedule change, so his appearances on the show
we'll work something out. Because
definitely.
I'll come on yours, and if we have to do like a separate one, I'll even set it up. I'll say to my wife in advance, "Hey, we got to do this."
Yeah, sure.
But I want to thank you for coming on. I have to have you on again because we just
we'll do.
Like
I had a feeling. I had a feeling that our hour discussion was going to be the introduction.
But that's a good sign because that means we had a good.
Well, no,
yeah.
The flow of the conversation and whatever. It's you can't fake. When there's a genuine conversation going on, and you want to structure it, but when you have a genuine conversation and it's something interesting, you don't interrupt it. You know.
Yeah.
And so, Phil, how old are you, Phil? Do you mind me asking? I'm curious.
I am 45.
45. Okay, so you would have graduated like two years away. I'm 43, so around that same age. Because I was thinking about when you made mention of you talking about your mom raising kids when she was 20 years younger than you,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
I
No, it's fine. Yeah.
The longest time I was like, Lady Prime as well. We didn't want children. It wasn't in the plans, and then oops.
No, for us, it was a goal. It was one that took a little bit longer than we anticipated.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we're all in now.
Yeah, the Fantastic Four, man. I love it.
Exactly.
You got the trademark going. I love it.
Yeah, and now it's kind of like, we've got some bigger goals we have to look at. Like, we're comfortable, but we need a bigger space and everything like that. And unfortunately, I don't know if the Texas real estate market is anything like Jersey, but it's not in the cards at the moment.
With Wilbur, he wishes he had kids younger, and I wish we would have had a second one with Ollie. The way the housing market is that, like we were talking about it on my stream, I wish I would have bought 10 years ago, because I would have felt like I got better value versus now. And it's just, and I don't see it stopping. I see it continuing progressing towards, it's going to be terrible. I'm not going to get the value of my money.
But you know what? I was talking to some kid I work with, and I say kid, he's probably like in his 20s, very smart guy. And he's one of these people, like, you ever see those Facebook ads where you see some guys like, well, if you buy a rental property and you live in it and you rent out the other units, he actually did that. Like, he sat down, researched, and was like, yeah, you could do that with a couple tweaks. And he's like a good kind of got a real estate mind. I have another friend who flips houses, so we kind of compare notes. And he's like this, here's the thing. Right now, everybody's in a holding pattern because you either have a great rate on your mortgage like we do, or it's just not out there. And like right now, if I were to buy my house as is now compared to what we bought it for 7 years ago, it would have been easily another $100,000.
It's crazy.
And he's like, look, what's going to happen too is if these rates go down, it's going to be more competitive. So the prices are going to stay high. Now, here in Jersey, pretty much every town, and I'm not exaggerating when I say pretty much every town, Comic Cap, you could maybe back this up. I'm not sure what part of Jersey you're in. I want to say I think you're near me, but not too close. Through the state, we're forced to build. They're forcing pretty much every town to build low-income housing. Now, when you say that, it sounds okay, but here's the thing. There's no oversight in this. So these developers come in. So I don't know if Monroe has that kind of issue because you're South Jersey. These developers are coming in and building, let's say, 100 units. 90 of those units are high-end luxury townhouses and 10 are low income.
Get it. The cup, Ollie. Sorry.
So, no worries. So you're talking about
clean it up.
90 units going for like $800,000 and, just 10 low income housing units. So I'm like, okay, well, this influx of these luxury condos, how's that going to affect the bigger space? I could see if you're like, hey, I want to move to a condo. I don't need space. I just don't want to handle maintenance. But I don't know. I don't know a whole lot of people downsizing to an $800,000 property. That's just me. I think that I took up a lot of your time today. We definitely have to do this again. And I feel like if we keep talking, we're going to go for another hour.
I want to say one last thing before we get off.
Oh, sure.
You said something in one of your streams, maybe it's months ago, year ago, whatever. And it's been on my mind. You talked about how your collection has gotten so large and you have to think about when you leave. Now you're leaving it to your son. And when you said that, man, that has been on my mind so much so that I think about, like, if I were to pass away, what are Lady Prime? What is Ollie going to do? And so I do want you to know that I man, that those words have been stuck in my mind for so often. And so you left something implanted in me.
Well, I'll say this. There have been people who I think have really run with that topic really well. I know Reggie had a great kind of comprehensive video about that a couple years ago. I know that Joe from Anachronic just had a panel about it maybe last month. And, I'm unfortunately still in the space where I don't know that I've left my wife with enough information to know, for lack of a better comparison, shit from Shinola. Because there's a lot of shit, but there's some good shine in here too. So, I mean,
where she could get value out of that and benefit from what you had. Right.
Right. But I also don't know if she's going to be in the mindset of, hey, look, I want to do this one and done.
Right.
And I've kind of explained to her that's not the most profitable way to do it, but it is what it is.
It might be the most profitable for her sanity at that point.
Right.
Where she's yeah.
At this point, like I've kind of said to her, like, look, until my shit's together, if God forbid something were to happen, talk to, and I was like the owner of my LCS, I think Matt Woods. I said if because most of the people I reference are older. Like if these people around, like the Brattons, I think are on that list. Reggie was. I don't know how in touch he would be at this point. In nothing bad against him. I don't know how busy he is to say, hey, I don't know what to do here. And it's just, I feel like I've given her at least enough information where she kind of knows. Yeah. But her expectations might be high too, because at one point, before I did this job change, I was like, I really got to start looking at different ways for just for our financial future. She's like, well, you could just sell, everything you have. I was like, first of all, how much do you think I'd actually get if I sold my entire collection? Because it's not anywhere near where we think it was. And, I think part of it is that she started watching videos with me at the height of the pandemic where, I could have sold my X-Men #1 for like 20 grand. And I was like, you could still get a good chunk of change for it. You're not getting 20 grand.
Right.
But
just need another pandemic to take over the United States, Bill.
Yeah. And she's kind of said to me too, because I said, look, some of these things are evergreens, the X-Men #1 and that kind of stuff. She said, well, what if, you pass it on to our kids and they don't want it? I was like, at that point, it's going to be their decision. I have to, kind of put myself in that mindset, but, it's going to be when they understand my whole job to say, hey, this is why this is, some maybe worth holding on to, unless you need to part with things. That in the CLZ app, I think the fact that it tracks the value for the most part through cover price.
It's made it a little easier.
Yeah. It's just reminding her that, hey, there's an app and this is how you access it. And making sure everything is in there, of course, which we're not there, but I digress.
Yeah.
Anyway,
who is?
I think if you're there, you have a small collection, and I'm a little jealous of you.
Definitely. I appreciated my collection a lot more when it was smaller, like because I would reread stuff, and now it's outgrown me, and
Now
but we won't get into that topic.
Yeah. Now I kind of said like I kind of remember this happening, but I don't, and I don't want to go back and to read it. Oh well. There you go, Manny. Hi, Manny. By the way,
he's got a plan.
Yeah. Well, fanboy, again, I have to have you on again. I want to.
Yeah, dude. Anytime, let me know, and then let me know ahead of time, like what's the subject. We have to stay on point and make it as small as possible because we'll diverge. We'll ramble on.
It's what it is. It's. I don't have. This is the thing. I'm not organized at all with. Anything.
Dude, right here, man.
I like to go on and just meander.
I knew you were a kindred spirit whenever I got onto the backstage before you were there. Because I'm always the last one at my own.
Yeah, with me, it was like, all right. I had to put my son down because he wanted to sit and play, and I was like, I like doing my show when everybody's around, but it's too distracting to them. Like they're not going to eat breakfast or anything like that. So that's why I've been down here the last couple of weeks, doing my lives. But yeah, that's it's usually like I literally just ran downstairs because my son just calmed down. But thank you guys for coming on.
I appreciate it. Like I said, anytime, man. I'm down to talk. Whether it's comics, whether it's toys, whether it's wrestling, whether it's life, dude. I enjoyed this, Phil.
I enjoyed it
Thank
as well. So Fanboy's going to come back soon. We're going to put it like that. Maybe not this month because I'm actually pretty booked this month for once, but soon. And I think we have to do something with having Lady on with you as well. My wife does not come on streams at all, but those are my favorite streams. I have to say when you guys are just on together, and maybe she's kind of ragging on you a little bit.
Yeah, all the time. I actually was listening to Weezer Pinkerton last night to prepare myself for an appearance on your show. I was thinking about starting my appearance by singing a Weezer song since
You should have. There you go.
I know.
I would have given you that stage. I have to say this too. I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, especially before we ended. Lady Prime was extremely helpful when I was going through my licensing exams, just giving me recommendations and everything. And I'm eternally thankful for that.
So are you already selling and stuff?
No, here's the thing. My prior company, I don't know how much I could say, but they were kind of saying to everybody, hey, you might want to get your license.
Got you. Okay.
And then when I changed companies,
They didn't care.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, well, you have that. That's good. So for me now, I have to, just maintain it. But
Because if you ever need it, or if you can ever use it, if you can date or whatever. Yeah, but she's talking about how so many people are canceling because prices are high for everything. And everybody's just canceling. They just say they can't afford it.
Well, especially you're in Texas.
It's crazy.
They're getting hit with most carriers, from what I understand.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's a rough time for a lot of people. So I'm thankful that we don't feel the crunch right now. So we're in a good spot. I'm thankful for that.
That's good. That is very good.
But I'm mindful of everybody out there who, it's rough. It's rough.
Well, let me back.
Downer.
Yeah. On that note, so we take everybody up here and then we bring it back down. There you go. You're welcome, everybody. Take that the rest of your time. Why don't you tell people, what do you have plans? I almost ended with that saying, what do you have planned coming up?
Dude, there's like so many things I would like to do, but I just have no confidence in myself to I want to go through my Superman read through and just like, hey, this is what happened here and this is my thoughts on it, or my Infinite Crisis one, because I'm getting every tie-in that was tied with the event proper / every book that kind of built up to that event. Like I would love to do that. Time wise, I don't know if I have the time for it. So what is it? It'll be a haul video once a week, and if Lady Prime has some wrestling stuff she wants to show or whatever. I do want to go back to doing a live every other week with Russ where we just talk wrestling because those are fun. And like I told Russ and told Lady Prime and DJ James, I don't care if anybody watches that. I just want to talk to you guys, and so
yeah, and that's just fun.
YouTube is not something for me where I'm like, I would like to be monetized. Like I don't care about that. I do well enough with other interests and stuff like that. And so the YouTube thing is just for me to meet people such as yourself. I would have never met you had it not been for YouTube. Like,
this is true.
We were on Instagram together because you have an account. I have an account. Would have probably never crossed paths, but through YouTube, I'm able to meet you, Trev, Mike, Russ, Neil, Robin, just a whole collection of people who we get along with, and Manny was messaging me the other day about life. We're just talking about life, and so YouTube has afforded me that opportunity to meet some people who share similar interests, and it's to me it's just YouTube is my social media account, my go-to social media account. That's all it is.
So I tell people,
what's up, Shop?
Hey, Shop. Especially people who are outside of YouTube, they're like, oh well, you must be making some good money. It's like, look. The reality of YouTube is you'll have maybe like 0.01% of people who are making a good living from it. And then just in our hobby, it's still very niche.
We're so
compared
small.
to the other. Yeah. Like, look, you just have to go into the mindset of you're doing it for fun. This is just my thing. That's why, like, I could go out and say I'm going to buy a microphone and I'm going to buy a laptop and everything like that. And I was like, look, at the end of the day, this is a hobby. I can't justify, especially running a household, pouring that type of money into this without it being profitable. So I can't make that jump. And I think that you have to, especially when you're starting out, keep that in mind. because you
Maybe
like you'll
maybe
see,
one day you could, but
right,
you know where you're at right now, and so yeah.
exactly.
Well,
Well,
congratulations on the 3 finalist spots you got on the CBC
thank
Awards.
you.
It's fantastic, especially for being a small channel. That that to me lets me know you've made your mark in the community with a lot of people. You know, enough people to where they said, "Hey, I want to nominate Phil for this." So that's fantastic, dude.
I appreciate that, and I'm genuinely of the mindset where it's like, look, we all, if you're somebody who puts your camera on or your phone and just does this, you're pouring a lot of yourself into what you're doing, and I genuinely wish that we could all just be like, hey, we all won.
Yeah.
And
Oh, dude, I was a finalist the first year, but I was more shocked. Not when I was named the finalist. I was more shocked when I was just nominated. That someone took the time to put me at a nominated. So I feel a victory just for being nominated.
yeah,
It's not. I hate to say I don't care about it because I don't want Brian to feel like, oh, I don't care, but I really don't. But it's so cool to me that people like what I do and that they even thought to nominate me. That to me is just cool enough. So, but
yeah,
congratulations once again for being,
thank
your
you,
impact in the community. Where hey, enough people made you a finalist. That's awesome.
thank you. And it was kind of weird because I'm like, wow, so people actually like best unboxing. Like I'm just like, here it is. Yeah. Show my wife. She's like, I don't like this. I don't or I like this. Like I was like, what? There's no. I guess it goes to show there's no magic formula or magic bullet, at least to getting nominated. I don't know about, winning, but I think that you have to approach this as nomination itself is
It's a
huge.
victory. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, on that note, I really got to run. But I do want to thank you. We're definitely going to have you back, and I want to thank everybody for giving us at least a little bit of your day. I'll be back later tonight on Evil's channels, and again, like I said, you may or may not see me pass out on camera. We'll see, because it's that kind of day, and I still got a lot to do. But again, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Peace, love, and comics. Take care.